I never imagined that clearing snow too well would turn me into the neighborhood problem the guy the HOA wanted to crush. Sounds ridiculous, right? But there I was watching an ambulance get stuck 3 houses down while the woman who ran the homeowners association threatened to put a lien on my house, and I still couldn't tell if I was the joke or the punchline. My name is Oliver. I moved to Pine Ridge about a year and a half ago, a tidy little planned community just outside Boulder. Summers there feel like a brochure matching mailboxes, sidewalks so clean you could eat off them. People walking dogs like it's a lifestyle blog. I was told HOAs are strict. I figured fine, follow the rules, be courteous, and life goes on. I was wrong, spectacularly wrong. The whole thing started with the first big snow in December. I'm talking 14 inches overnight, the kind of storm that makes you respect de-icing and earnest people who own snowblowers. I woke at 5, pulled on layers, fed the coffee maker, and fired up my new machine, a $2,000 snowblower that actually felt like something invented for oxygenated joy. By 6:30, I had my driveway cleared, the sidewalk in front of my house spotless. And I even shoveled Mr. Patterson's little path, the old man with the bad hip who lives next door. Felt good. Warm inside. Community service, right? That feeling lasted until I got home and found a yellow notice taped to my door. Official letterhead, embossed, seal, the whole intimidating package. Notice of violation, it said. Resident Oliver. Me violated Section 12.4.b. No snow removal before 8 a.m. on weekdays, fine. $250 pay within 14 days. I read it standing on my porch, my breath steaming in the cold like maybe it was a joke. I called the number, got voicemail. Office hours 10 to 3. Of course. They called me back at 10:01. Deborah Martinez, HOA, President, crisp voice, clipped sentences. She told me rules were rules, ignorance was no excuse, and yes, several residents had complained about noise last year. I tried to explain safety ice buildup, elderly neighbor. She didn't care. If we make exceptions, we have chaos, she said. She hung up on me like I'd misbehaved at a PTA meeting. That $250 stung less than the principal. I asked around. People rolled their eyes. One neighbor snorted that Deborah fined a family for keeping Christmas lights 2 days past some arbitrary deadline. Another claimed she'd tried to ban a medical van from a driveway. Power trip, Mr. Patterson muttered, as if that explained everything. Someone suggested running against her at the next election. The neighborhood joke was that the last person who tried ended up selling their house. I went to the December board meeting. My plan, naive and simple, explained show I was new, show I was reasonable. Pine Ridge's community center is modern and a little cold glass steel, that sort of place that says we have standards. Deborah sat at the head navy suit reading glasses on a chain, a woman who looked like she measured not just the minutes but the decibels in them. She called me up. I explained. She read the rules back at me like scripture. Do you have evidence the notice was issued in error? She asked. 3 neighbors had seen me with a snowblower at 6:15 a.m., she said. End of story. Appeal denied. The room smelled faintly of hot coffee and defeat. So I paid the fine. I'm not an idiot fighting costs more than 40 minutes on Google. But I did something else. I read the entire rule book. That's when it stopped being petty and started being ridiculous. Section 12.4b said no snow removal before 8 a.m. Section 12.4c said walkways must be cleared within 4 hours of snowfall ending. Another section said driveways and walkways must remain clear for emergency vehicles at all times. Put those together during a storm that starts at midnight and ends at noon, you can't comply with both. Physically impossible. January was brutal. Storm after storm, the kind that makes the whole block creak. I complied 8 o'clock a.m. on the dot, even when the snow was knee-deep by then. I stopped helping neighbors. I felt petty, but I thought, follow the rules, document everything, let the contradictions show themselves. And then came January 28th, the storm that changed everything. That night I lay awake to wind and the muffled roar of snow, and at 7:45 a.m. I watched Dave across the street start his blower. At 8:15, Deborah's Lexus glided by, camera out, notice on his door. At 9:45, my phone rang. Mr. Patterson worried. Mrs. Henderson, 3 houses down, hadn't answered her phone. He'd called 911. An ambulance came, made it maybe 50 feet, and got stuck. The paramedics slogged through thigh-high snow toward her porch. Someone finally yelled for help, and a dozen neighbors, Dave Marcus, a bunch of guys with shovels dug a path. It took 20 minutes. They got her out. She ended up in the hospital. I sat there watching concrete coffee turning cold. Part of me thought I followed the rules. Another part of me felt sick. I had chosen to be compliant because I'd been fined for helping before. The guilt stuck like wet gloves. Next morning, more notices. This time they fined me for not finishing my clearing within 4 hours and for blocking emergency access $1,000 total. They were literally fining me for following their rule and then fining me for following the other one. I laughed until it turned into a different sort of anger. I called Deborah. She read me the rule book back like a scripture again if I'd started at 8 a.m. I'd have finished within 4 hours, she said. Have you ever cleared 20 inches with a residential blower, I asked. She said it wasn't relevant. The tone was clinical warlike. They threatened liens. They hinted at legal action. I did the sensible thing. I talked to a lawyer. Patricia Chen Sharp, efficient, not sympathetic to petty tyranny. She read the rules and smiled, the lawyer smile that tells you someone somewhere has made a legal mess. You can pay, she said. You can litigate and go broke. Or you can do something nasty or malicious, compliance. Follow their rules to the letter, document everything, and let the contradictions blow back on them. It felt cowardly and clever at the same time. So I documented. Photos, timestamps, weather reports, every snowfall logged like I was running a lab. I appealed, they denied, and winter churned on. I stuck to the rules exactly. Marcus asked if I was making a statement. I said I was making a point. Word spread. At the February meeting, 40 residents showed up, double the usual. I brought highlighted copies of the bylaws. People stood up and told their stories, fined for clearing early to get to dialysis, fined for not clearing fast enough on a Saturday when it snowed all morning. Debbie looked like ice about to fracture. Her response was the same. Rules are rules. People need discipline. I said, during a 12-hour storm, you can't obey both of these. The room hummed. A few people came to me after and offered to chip in for legal fees. The tide slowly turned. Then things escalated. After I filed suit to invalidate the contradictory rules and challenge the fines, Deborah started issuing fines like confetti, mailbox, dents, paint shades, landscaping heights, 7 violations in 3 weeks, thousands of dollars. Patricia added retaliatory enforcement to our filings. The HOA lawyer replied with threats. I replied with more documentation. The story made the local paper. Suddenly I was less of a nuisance and more of a symbol, flawed, sure, but also a mirror. Court was a theater of small things. Judge Whitmore, hard-eyed, no-nonsense, read the bylaws and sighed like a grown-up who hates stupid games. How is a resident supposed to follow both rules, she asked the HOA's attorney. The attorney stammered about reasonable judgment. The judge laughed, just a short, dry thing, and told them she wanted clarity. On the stand, I said what I'd done and what I regretted that day with the ambulance, that I'd been angry, that I wish I'd shoveled anyway. Deborah was put through the ringer, numbers of fines, selective enforcement, lack of documentation. The judge saw the pattern. When the ruling came down, it felt like sunlight through a cold window. All my fines invalidated. The HOA ordered to rewrite the snow rules within 60 days, with resident input, and critically, they had to pay my legal fees. The judge couldn't remove the president, but she told the HOA membership to consider if the leadership served them. Justice small and precise, not theatrical, but effective. The neighborhood organized petitions circulated, and within weeks, Deborah stepped down from the presidency. The interim board actually wanted to fix things. I joined the rewrite committee. We made simple rules: clear your driveway when needed once 2 inches fell. Finish within 8 hours unless there's a medical exception. Emergency access always trumps noise complaints. We kept noise rules but made them sensible, not weaponizable. Then a twist: I didn't expect. A detective called. Someone had audited the HOA books and found $40,000 misallocated over 3 years. The pattern pointed to Deborah. Turns out the fines had been a revenue stream she'd been creatively redirecting. It wasn't just petty power play, it was theft. She was arrested, tried, convicted. She went to prison. The HOA got most of the money back. The community used it to cut dues the next year. Karma ugly and satisfying. We rebuilt trust slowly. Mr. Patterson and I went back to shoveling his path. I still think about Mrs. Henderson about whether a few minutes would have changed anything. Her family told me the delay wasn't the deciding factor. Even so, that day haunts me a little. A reminder that principle without humanity can cause harm. I learned painfully that standing up matters, but also that compassion should come first when lives might be on the line. What did I learn? First, rules should be written by people who understand the reality they govern. Second, unchecked authority attracts abuse. Third, sometimes you have to push back not just for yourself, but for everyone who will come after. It's messy, it's expensive, it's scary, but it can force a broken system to fix itself. Now, when it snows, I start my blower when it makes sense. And if I see an elderly neighbor struggling at 6 in the morning, I don't think about fines. I think about people. Pine Ridge has rules, yes, but they're reasonable now. People still care about property values. They just care about human decency more. So here's my parting question for you, and I mean this. If rules and kindness ever point different ways, which do you follow? Do you keep your head down and your compliance card ready? Or do you risk being called a troublemaker to make a place safer for everyone else? Tell me what you do. And if you've ever seen petty rules hurt someone, share that story. Because silence lets small tyrannies grow, and sometimes, just sometimes, a stubborn neighbor refusing to be bullied is the thing that saves the rest of us.